Hello everybody and welcome back to Sweet and Sour Soccer, and today we are speaking about Everton and a transfer that is continuing to gather in speculation. Harry Winks potentially moving to Everton from Spurs in a transfer which I think there's a lot to kind of dive into with this. So guys, I'm going to be speaking about the transfer rumour itself as well as diving into my thoughts on this because there's a lot to unpick with this player and talking about whether I think that this would be a good transfer move. But guys, before I do, you already know what I'm going to ask. Help me out. Hit that like button and please subscribe to the channel as well if you are new here. We do a lot of general football content. We're a general football channel. And if you're an Everton fan, we'll be bringing you lots of updates over the summer as well about all transfer activity. Now, let's waste no more time then and jump straight into this video and talking about Harry Winks because it's been an interesting start to the transfer window for Everton. Speculation over the club potentially going up for sale, as well as the signing of James Tarkowski, kind of. It's yet to be announced, but we're led to believe it is officially done. And a player that keeps on cropping up is this man, Mr. Harry Winks. And it's been reported on multiple sources that Everton could be looking at getting a deal done for Harry Winks, especially now Spurs have obviously got Basuma. And because obviously Spurs have now got Basuma in that defensive mid position, it does mean that Harry Winks is now available for transfer. A player that has been kind of not used too much over the last few years. In fact, he only in his last 2 seasons has made 19 appearances in the Premier League last season and 15 the season before. Really not being fancied by the last 3 managers really now, Conte, Nuno and Mourinho. But this is a guy that had so much potential, and you know, a lot of positive things were spoke about him a couple of years ago. So could it be the fact if he could join a new club, could he get his career back on track? I mean, hopefully it would go a bit more successful than what's, you know, happened at the moment with Dele Alli. Obviously, his transfer to Everton so far, it's not going to go in any record books, is it? Of course, there's still time for him to adjust to the team and make it into the team next season. But so far, you probably regard that as not a positive transfer. But let's dive into the player a little bit more because Harry Winks, I must admit, I always felt that he was a young player. And I feel like maybe it's one of those a bit like Jesse Lingard, but he's been called a young player for such a long time now. But he's not really a young player anymore. 26 years of age. He really should be getting into the prime of his career. And, one of those players that he was linked to actually was, you know, okay, he's at place for Spurs, but he was once linked a bit like Jack Wilshere in the fact that the way he plays, of course, he's a defensive midfielder, a number 8. He can play in defensive mid or as a centre mid. And I suppose having that small frame, a bit like Jack Wilshere, he was once compared to him. But a bit like Jack Wilshere, he hasn't really lived up to his career potential. It's been a bit more of a stagnant couple of years with him. In fact, it's been 3 seasons now since he played regularly in the Premier League. And then that season, he played 31 times. So there's a lot to be said about Harry Winks. The one thing that I do want to touch on though massively is the potential price tag that's being flipped about. Words of £20 million. Now, look, I'll be completely honest. That would put me off a little. Now, Transfer Market, they get their valuations quite wrong at times, but Transfer Market have him valued at 13.5 million. For me, that would feel a lot more fairer price for me. I think 20 million seems a stretch for someone that's actually been on, you know, not playing regularly as a first teamer, being used mainly in the cup, coming off the benches. I don't think he's worth 20 million. I really don't. And, you know, it's one of those where you do feel Everton now, hopefully they've learnt from their mistakes. Hopefully, if they do want this transfer, they get it done at a good price because that really is important. Of course, Everton overpaying on transfers is probably what's caused them to be in the mess last season. We've now seen them obviously get Tarkowski. Well, we think Tarkowski is coming to you guys on a free transfer. So that would be a good bit of business. I just hope for your guys' sake, if you do go ahead with this transfer, you're not paying that £20 million price tag. Now, of course, he can play, as I've said, both in the defensive and centre mid roles. And when you analyse the Everton squad, it's probably something that Everton really do need. You know, you imagine he'd probably be the Davis replacement, who you'd argue, I think a lot of Everton fans would probably agree, hasn't really lived up to his potential, which he once had. Now, for me, it's a signing that I'm struggling a little bit with. I do worry for Everton, but on the other hand, maybe getting him playing regular football again. We do know that, you know, he has good stamina. He's gonna play a lot of games. You know, he's not particularly injury prone, and his average rating when he did play last season was 6.43. So, you know, and that's when he wasn't getting regular game time. Maybe this is a signing that could work out. I'm a little bit 50-50 with this one, and I'm really interested to know how you Everton fans feel about this potential transfer as well, because I think there'll be a mixed response with this. You know, I think at one time he did have a lot of potential. Could that potential that he once had actually materialize into something if he starts getting more regular game time? I do think there is something there with the player. I think he has got a really good passing ability, and looking at his passing stats, he's always high in his pass accuracy. You know, there is something quite skillful about watching him as a player, but he has definitely fell off over the last couple of seasons. But maybe he could get that form back at Everton. But guys, let me know your thoughts. Is this a transfer you're hoping goes through if you're an Everton fan? Do you think he can regain the, you know, I suppose the form that he once had and the hype around him if he did come to Everton? And guys, as I said at the start of the video, we'll be doing a lot more Everton content over this transfer window. So help us out. Hit that like button if you've enjoyed the video, and please do subscribe to the channel. We're trying to get to 3.5k before the start of the season. So if you can help us out with that, it'd be a massive deal. Thank you in advance. And hopefully I'll see you guys on another video. Thank you. Goodbye.